Everything you love was once a project. The apps you tap, the bridges you cross, the shows you stream. None of them happened by accident. Behind every one of them was a dream, a team, and a project manager trying to hold it all together. I'm Rick Morris, and this is AI Driven PM, the show where project managers stop playing games, embrace reality, and use AI to make dreams come true without burning out their people. Each week, we'll blend real world project war stories with practical ways to put AI to work. How to plan smarter, negotiate better dates, protect your team, and focus on the work that actually moves the needle. If you ever thought there has to be a better way to do this, then you're in the right place. Let's get to work. This is AI Driven PM. Hello, and welcome to episode 5. Is it episode 5 already? Episode 5 of season 2 of AI Driven PM. My name is Rick Morris, and I'm here to continue to collaborate with you on how we can use AI effectively. What's interesting about AI is AI can't do for you what it can't do through you. And that's what we're really here to talk about. AI is such a phenomenal thinking partner, and it's a great way to make sure you're honing in on your skills and you're freeing up time. We've already covered a lot of these kind of topics. We want to make sure that the percentage of your time is spent looking forwards versus backwards. And that's where AI is really going to help us do that. So today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is data rules all. Like before I even get into some of the things that we can do with AI, let's just talk about data for a second. Because truly, I came up through the Six Sigma era. I love DMAIC, define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And the very first thing I'm thinking every single time is how do I measure it? Because if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. But I feel like a lot of the times we focus on the wrong things. A lot of the metrics that we focus on don't really tell the story that we need to tell. I'm not saying they're not valuable. So any of the metrics I say here, there's some that we still have to do. I'm not saying they're not valuable. I'm saying that they don't necessarily tell the story. So for instance, if we track like velocity and burn rate, story points, those types of things, everybody, I hear a lot when I start working with clients and I bring in some of the systems that I bring in, they go, wait a minute, velocity and story points don't tell me anything. Right. And I don't even know what a story point is. And listen, I've been through all of that portion as well. But one of my favorites that I use is a cost by story point. And so what I'm doing is I'm tracking the cost of our team against the velocity and throughput. And then what I'm showing executives is essentially that we're getting better, that our efficiency is growing, or something happened and our efficiency got thrown off. And that's where we have to be able to dive into. So I'm not saying like normal tracking doesn't make sense or isn't valuable, but there are certain ways that we can tell stories. And again, if we start to look at AI is going to help us drive some of that. So when I say, what should we measure right out of the gate? A lot of us do measure activity metrics. We talk about story points completed. We talk about tasks closed, how many hours were logged, and all of that kind of measures busyness. But we all know that activity doesn't necessarily equal achievement. And so what we should be looking at are some outcome metrics like user adoption or revenue impact or time to value or measure results. A lot of times when I take over struggling agile teams, it's not that they're struggling in their ceremonies or in their points. They're struggling in recognizing value. And a lot of that is because we don't really we'll assign like a business value as high. Well, it's a high business value. What does that mean? Like, are we looking for an increase in revenue? Like, I worked with a client recently, and they were like, "Well, our goal is a 2% net sales lift." I was like, "Yeah, but if we land Walmart, do we win?" And they're like, "No." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's dive into what this 2% net sales lift means. Is it each person? Is across the board we're looking for a 2% net sales lift? Like, what is it that we're doing?" Right. And what was funny is they were utilizing that to like justify building a data warehouse, but they didn't have the first idea what they were going to put into the data warehouse in order to measure that metric. And so these are where these metrics become really, really powerful, and having AI help you think through these data points. I've said on stage many times that if I have more data than you, I'm going to win the conversation. And not only that, but if we think about what we do as project managers, I like to kind of liken us to lawyers, right? And our sponsors are judges. So what we do is we build a case, and we build a case with data. We then present the decision to our sponsor, and we get a response, right? And hopefully it's what we want. If it's not, we don't argue right then, right? Like a lawyer would. What we do is appeal. But what we do when we appeal is we go back and look at our data and say, why didn't it tell the story that we were hoping it would tell? And then we shift that and come up with stuff. So most project managers, they obsess over activity metrics because, quite frankly, they're easier to track. But executives really care about, even if they don't say it, properly, they really care about outcome metrics that drive the business value, and that's what we're really trying to make sure that we're going after. So the opportunity to utilize AI here is AI can automate activity tracking entirely, right? And so there's agents that I've built that do my systems when we do agile tracking. So I have specific ways, and I don't care if it's Jira or Microsoft Planner or if it's ServiceNow or if they're doing it via spreadsheet. I really don't care, and my agents don't care. But we basically can pull all that data in and normalize it, and then tell a story the way we want to be able to tell it. And all of that really is automated for me. Other than sometimes we have to extract the data and put it into a folder, but in terms of that point forward, it's going there, and it just allows me to focus on making sure we have the discipline of keeping the data where it's supposed to be, and then all of the reporting gets automated. This frees us up, it frees me up to continue to focus on outcome measurement, impact analysis, and quite frankly, invent new metrics that needs to that helps me tell another portion of the story. And what AI can do is help correlate like leading indicators, like your velocity and your quality, and your lagging indicators like revenue and retention. It can really pull across from all these different sources and help isolate trends that allow us to be able to tell a story a different way. So what would I suggest you to measure instead of just busyness is like, again, value delivered. So like features in production being used. It's not like, well, we hope, X amount of people will sign up. It's like how many, like this portion is sticky. I was a part of a great, app out there called Growth Day. And what was interesting about that is we had all these other features planned, but at the last minute, the founder and owner of Growth Day was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I had like this daily fire kind of segment, like this thing that would like fire everybody up each morning, kind of give them a motivational push. And that was like this little feature we put in at the last minute. And that turned out to be one of our stickiest features. And so like, it's those types of things, but if we're not measuring like how many times people are using things, how they're using it, how long they're staying there, those types of things, those features in production being used, then we really don't know if we're attaining the value. Time to impact is another great one. Like how fast did we go from idea to user value, or what was that churn rate in terms of when we thought of something or we were asked for something till when we actually delivered that. We can look at quality signals like defect rates, technical debt, user satisfaction, team health. There's a velocity stability, our morale, our attrition risk. But we also can do like sentiment analysis and that kind of stuff as well, just to see how our team is doing. And then, of course, stakeholder confidence. So sponsor engagement, clarity of vision, those types of things. So those are some of those things that I suggest that we should measure, and should measure them just a little bit differently. I have a whole methodology called 210. There's actually going to be some more stuff that's coming out about that. But that is basically readiness and flow. And so again, it's something that we measure a little bit differently than most people do. So I'm looking at specific items that are bottlenecks and measuring how far ahead we are. And then I've got thresholds for two X, either quarters or sprints ahead, 1 quarter or sprint ahead, and then the 0 blockers. Again, it's a different measurement technique, but it's measuring flow and readiness versus activity. So that's what we're going to be doing today when we start to get to our prompts. Our focus today, we're going to build some prompts that help us find some metrics and maybe build a metrics dashboard that tells us the real story of project health. And we want to use AI to identify leading indicators of project risk. Now, I know a lot of you out there may not have access to agents and may not have access to go build dashboards. So I'm trying to keep this kind of in that level set of, well, what can we prompt? What can you prompt? What can you do? And again, what we'll do is we'll take a break right here. We'll let Centric Consulting say hello to us. And when we come back, we'll have the screens up and I'll start to put some of these prompts into ChatGPT and Claude, and we'll see what the results are. So hang around.
In today's economy, leaders are looking for a different kind of consulting partner. A partner that will work with you to understand your culture, technology, and employees. A partner that will develop the solutions you need, not the solutions they know best. For us, it's never been about simply checking a box. Since we were founded in 1999, Centric Consulting has established a reputation for solving its clients' toughest problems by delivering flexible, tailored, cost-efficient solutions, all centered on the right outcomes for each business. It's all part of our mission to deliver an unmatched experience you won't get anywhere else. Centered on what's best for you, Centric is ready to guide you on the journey ahead.
And we're back. So let's see how AI can help us discover some metrics. So first prompt that I want to put in is you are a data-driven PM coach and metric strategist. First, ask me 4 to 5 questions about the project goals, stakeholders, team, and what success means in business terms. Again, using Socratic prompting, helping think through it so that we get to better answers. Then help me design a metrics dashboard by answering what are the 3 to 5 outcome metrics that prove the project is delivering value? What are 3 to 5 activity health metrics that are leading indicators of those outcomes? For each metric, what is the data source and how do we measure it? Number 4, what thresholds or targets indicate green, yellow, red status for each metric? And number 5, how should I present these metrics to executives versus the team versus the sponsor? And then I give it a project context using the social wishing. Really quickly, but when we start to get into what I said earlier at the top of the episode, I said AI can't do for you what it can't do through you, and here's where I get into it is we're going to ask for these metrics, but it doesn't necessarily mean these are the ones that we're going to use. We want a brainstorming session here to kind of help us figure out a different way to be able to tell a story. That's all we're doing. So I'm going to drop these prompts both into ChatGPT 5.2, and we've got Claude Sonnet 4.6 going. And we'll see if you've been following along already. I want to see how Claude reacts to this, because if you've noticed, and what I enjoy about using kind of the same context as I'm doing this session is we get to see how kind of AI picks up on you and picks up on certain things. And so, when I was asking for a bunch of, questions and stuff, Claude in previous episodes started to bypass that, saying, "Hey, I got enough project context. I don't need to ask you any more questions," which I found really, really interesting. So let's get into first the questions it's asking me. So it says, before I design the dashboard, need a few clarifiers. Who is the primary economic stakeholder? Founders, investors, internal innovation team, or an acquiring parent? And what decision are they trying to make with this dashboard? Great question. How does this app make money within the first 12 to 18 months? Is it ads, subscriptions, partnerships? What is the target user persona? What would cause leadership to declare this a failure at month 6 or month 9? What a great question to ask your sponsor. So again, a lot of this is just things that I do to brainstorm before I get in front of a client, before I get in front of a team. And I want to be able to ask great questions that are going to move us along. And that is where AI has been a game changer for me. So I always felt like I've been able to adapt in the moment, but sometimes I'm not always well prepared as I go in because I haven't thought through it enough or learned enough about the subject. So this really has helped accelerate not only being able to answer, or get better questions, but to build trust a little bit faster with my clients. Now, on the Claude side, it asked me that, again, activity definition, wish fulfillment measurement, stakeholder appetite for risk, social viral loop clarity, and current baseline. ChatGPT went ahead and said, here's some outcome metrics that prove value. I do want to answer here so that we can see what the metrics are that they come up with. So we'll say stakeholder is founders, and we'll say app will be monetized after freemium. What is the target persona for MVP? Age range, relationship status, social behavior. So we'll say college students and retirees. what would cause leadership to declare this a failure at month 6 or month 9? Low sign-up rates. And then, do you have any analytics tooling selections of Firebase, Mixpanel? Great. Well, here, I've used Mixpanel, I've used Amplitude, but if you didn't know about those tools, this would give you like, what are those tools? What can we do with those? And I'm going to say no tools. I'm going to put the exact same thing in Claude. I'm not going to read all of Claude's questions just because I try to keep this to 30 minutes or less. We just want to get across what we're here. So and Claude says, good answer. So Claude, you can see kind of, most of the tools, by the way, gaslight you in some way. They're like, oh, what a great question. That's not necessary in this piece. If you notice, ChatGPT is very bullet point with me because that's the way I kind of like to operate. Claude is still kind of learning me. So it doesn't necessarily always, it kind of gaslights me a little bit. It's like, oh, what a great question. You should be thinking about this. So here we go. Outcome metrics that prove value. So they came up with new user signups per week, 90-day active users, weekly active user rate, a wish progress rate, and a 30-day retention. Great metrics, right? Leading indicator health metrics would be visitor to sign up conversion rate, activation rate, invite rate. So percent of users who invite at least one friend. That's an interesting one. I like that one. Time to first wish. So the median time from sign up to when they created their first wish, and then sprint predictability. Really, really cool. And then it's saying, listen, since you don't have any tools, start with the landing page, and then it's telling you, hey, go to get Google Analytics for page visits. So again, you're just learning, you're trying to figure this out. You want to invent these metrics. Like ChatGPT or in AI in general is telling you like where to go. Like, okay, cool, you don't have tools, go figure this out, right? So in the app, go get event tracking out of Firebase Analytics and do this stuff. And again, you may not be able to do it, but what a great way to be able to start to drive kind of, your progress here. Dashboard structure, it says for founders, single slide, 3 rows. You want growth, which is signups per week, visitor to sign up conversion. Row 2 is engagement, wish progress rate, invite rate. Row 3 is retention, 30-day retention, and a trend arrow. So very, very cool. And then it tells me for the team and for sponsors. Let's see, Claude says your sponsor flagged low sign-up rates is the #1 failure risk. So that means your dashboard needs to tell a story that starts at acquisition and flows through to fulfillment. Every metric should connect that chain. Attracted, signed up, posted a wish, got support, came back. So here it gave us kind of the same things. Sign up completion rate, wish post rate, friend connection rate, sprint velocity versus baseline, defect escape rate. Some of these are kind of standard, so I would hope it would go a little bit deeper. I do like the little, it gave for those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube and are just listening, Claude does it gave a really nice table for green, yellow, red thresholds. And so it gave you kind of your metric, your activation rate, your wish fulfillment rate, your D30 retention, defect escape rate, that kind of stuff, and gave you kind of a green, yellow, red piece. And then again, told you how to do your presentation by audience, but we get the point here. And that's really what I'm trying to get is you can ask for like, help me come up with metrics, help me come up with things to activity and find out, what the dream is, which we did in episode 1. But once we know what the dream is and we know what to drive, then we want to develop metrics that tie directly back to that story and tell that piece. All right. So let's do our next prompt. Here in our next prompt, it says, you are a predictive analytics expert for project management. Ask me 3 to 4 questions about current project metrics, team dynamics, and any early warning signs I'm seeing. Then analyze potential risk patterns by answering, based on the metrics I'm tracking, what are the 3 to 5 leading indicators that typically predict project trouble? Number 2, what correlation exists between team health metrics, which is velocity and morale, and outcome metrics, which is quality and delivery? Number 3, what data am I not currently capturing that would give me an earlier warning sign of risk? It's a phenomenal question to ask. What specific metric threshold should trigger a project health intervention? Number 5, how do I communicate risk using data without sounding alarmist? So really, really another portion just to help me find it, help me think about things I might not be thinking about, and how do I communicate this without freaking everybody out. Now, if this activity right here, what we want is AI to be able to do a lot of the stuff that it can do to free us up to be able to sit down and think exactly like this. This is what we should be doing as project managers. It's just going, hey, what am I missing? What's something else I should be looking at? What's something I should be asking my team? Like just constantly being curious to know what's happening within the team. So I'm going to put these in and we'll see what it comes up with. By the way, too, I do give it current metrics. So sprint velocity started at 35 points. We're now at 28 points. Defect rate is 12 bugs per sprint, which is up from 7 2 months ago. Code review cycle time is 2.3 days on average. Stakeholder meeting attendance, he's missed the last 2 of 3 meetings. Team survey sentiments down from 8 to 6.5. And 8 new feature requests were added in the last month, while 3 original features were cut. So what is this telling me, and what should I be watching closely? So we'll put these both in. So ChatGPT first is asking, has team size or composition changed since the velocity dropped? I'm going to say, no, we added a person. Or just say, as team size, we'll say, yes, we added a person and got a drop. Are the new feature requests coming from founders, users, or internal ideas? I'll say founders. Is technical debt increasing, for example, rush stories or reduced testing coverage? I'll say testing coverage due to date pressure, right? That's a common one. And then are deadlines still fixed at 6 months, or schedule flexibility changes? Nope. Still have a deadline. Now, again, ChatGPT followed the instructions and asked me questions. Claude, because I'm in the same chat, says, wait a minute, I've got the context from the project before, so I don't need it. Again, I don't know if I necessarily like that or not, but I expose that because it's important. Some of you are going to love the questions. Some of you are going to just want to get to the answer. Either way, you have an AI tool that's going to be able to assist you. So ChatGPT says, what is this really telling you? Velocity drop after adding a person is classic onboarding drag plus coordination overhead. Makes total sense. When a team adds a member mid-build, knowledge transfer consumes senior capacity, code review load increases. Now, I'm used to telling sponsors that, hey, if we add a person, you're not going to see an immediate bump in velocity, and they're not going to be immediate contributors. But sometimes they don't understand that. So this is nice context behind it, right? There's merge complexity increases, decision latency increases. A 20% drop after adding one person is common in the first 2 to 4 sprints. If velocity does not recover within 3 sprints, then the issue is structural, not onboarding. So right now, your velocity drop alone is not alarming, but this coupling with other signals is. Very good guidance. I think that's very smart guidance. Defects up plus testing coverage down. This is the highest risk signal in your data. I would agree. When testing coverage drops due to date pressure, defect growth becomes exponential, not linear. Nice. So it's telling you that leads to a huge bell curve. If testing continues to erode, expect 15 to 18 defects per sprint within 4 to 6 weeks, increased rework, longer review cycles, and the quality debt is accumulating. So now I have some data that I could sit down with a sponsor and go, look, I totally get the date pressure. However, what we're doing is we're starting to compress our testing. And what happens is, again, your defects basically start to grow exponentially, not linearly. And while we may get to completion, we won't have quality completion. So what would be best for you? Would be best for you that we complete the feature at the date, or that the feature works at a later date, right? Like that's really the question we're saying here is, we could say we're done, but the feature is going to be buggy and it's not going to work, or we can move the date and the feature will be worked, and we'll at least have our initial QA windows shut down. So fantastic, guidance again. Founders driving scope mid-build. It talks about, fixed deadline plus degrading signals. And then leading indicators you should watch weekly. So story spillover rate, that's a fantastic one. I don't know how many of you track that, but I track that all the times. How many stories are sliding and how many of them, what's the average slide? Is it 1 sprint, 1.5 sprints, 2 sprints, that kind of thing. Testing coverage percentage, rework ratio, and scope stability index. And so how about that? That's something I've used in the past, but that may be something you may be hearing for the first time. A scope stability index, meaning new story points divided by that's a mouthful. It's how many new story points were added divided by total committed story points if over 15% mid-sprint execution predictability collapses. So your scope stability is basically how much mid-sprint churn is there. So we had these 10 new things pop up, each at a point that's 10 points. We were committed at 30 points for the sprint. So 10 divided by 30 is the metric, your scope stability index. Really, really cool one. And then it gives you some intervention and then how to frame it, give you some predictive summary. We'll see if there's anything. Yeah, velocity to defect ratio is not a bad one. Scope churn velocity, sponsor disengagement, sentiment drop trajectory, some nice stuff. Data that you're not capturing that would help. Onboarding ramp data for replacement engineer, scope change origin tracking, wish funnel instrumentation, and review comment density per PR. Very interesting one there as well. So again, if I'm trying to figure out what's happening, why is our velocity slowing down, and we're not sure, what to look at or what to go find, this one's a really interesting one. So it's the aggregate cycle time doesn't tell you why reviews are slow, but high comment density means complexity or standards drift. Low comment density with long cycle times means avoidance. So these require different interventions, but really, really cool things to look for. And now it gives you some thresholds. So let's stay on that one. That code review cycle time is, you should watch it if it's in 2 to 2.5 days. You should intervene if it's 2.5 to 3 days, and you should escalate if it's more than 3 days when you're looking at code review cycle time. Another great metric potentially to help me go find out what's going on with this team. So that's that portion. Let's do one more, and we'll see here. So in this one, our prompt is vanity metrics versus value metrics, right? So you're a metric strategist helping PMs distinguish signal from noise. So that's the other thing is, just because these are metrics, we shouldn't track all of them, right? We shouldn't do all of these. We want to make sure that we're only doing things that add value to us and add value to the team. So in this case, ask me 2 to 3 questions about the metrics I'm currently reporting and what decisions those metrics inform. Then provide an analysis answering which of my current metrics are vanity metrics. They look good, but they don't drive decisions. Which metrics are value metrics, which directly inform action or prove impact. For each vanity metric, what is the underlying value metric I should track instead? Love it. What questions should I ask myself to test if a metric is worth tracking? And how do I transition stakeholders away from vanity metrics that they're used to seeing? And then I give it a listing of current metrics that I'm doing, which is tasks completed this week, story points burned, budget spent to date, team utilization, number of commits to repo, lines of code written, meetings held, and risks identified. Executives keep asking, are we going to hit the launch date and user targets? And I feel like my metrics don't actually answer that question. So this is the prompt that I'm giving both ChatGPT and Claude, and we'll see what they come back with. So true to form, ChatGPT will ask me questions, and Claude says, why are you asking me questions? Rick, you've already diagnosed the problem yourself. Your metrics answer, are we busy? Not, are we going to succeed? But let me be direct about what's in your current report. What a great response from Claude. Some of these always kind of make me chuckle. So ChatGPT did ask questions. I'm not going to go through those at this moment. It's just, but it also answers. So it kind of jumps ahead a little bit as well, thinking it has context, but still it adheres to the instructions, which is, I wanted some questions. So vanity metrics in your current report says these metrics create activity visibility, but do not predict delivery or value. So task completed says without task size context, this means nothing. 23 small tasks could equal 1 medium feature, not bad. Story points burn points don't predict completion unless they're compared to a forecast or a trend. High utilization often predicts delay and burnout, not performance. It measures busyness, not throughput stability. Number of commits, more commits can actually signal churn, instability, and refactoring, but it doesn't predict launch readiness. Lines of code, more code often correlates with more defects. It's not a progress indicator. Nice. So again, you can start to see how it starts to come back. It suggests the value metrics that answer executive questions. To answer those, we need predictive. So for launch date, we need velocity trend over 4 sprints, forecasted completion date based on remaining story points, a scope stability index, a defect trend, and a story spillover rate. I agree with all those. Activation rate would be for weekly active user rate, retention at 30 days, sign up growth rate, wish progress. And now here, Claude says the blunt assessment, 6 of your 8 reported metrics are vanity metrics. The executives are asking the right question and your dashboard is giving them the wrong answer. It's not a data problem, it's a framing problem. And you're reporting inputs when they're asking about outcomes. Couldn't have said it better myself. And right there, the value of being able to run this through AI is to have that's what, again, your year 3, year 4 PM, that is such fantastic coaching and things that unfortunately some of us had to learn the hard way by standing in that big meeting with 20 executives and running through our status report and having them eat you alive because it didn't answer any of the burning questions that they had, right? And you're like, but this is the status report we've always done. Yeah, I mean, absolutely just thread you. And I've been in that meeting and it feels horrible. And then you go back and you go, I don't even know what to do. Right. So this is really where I challenge you to use AI to be able to help you advance your career and become that AI-driven PM. So to recap here, activity metrics measure busyness, but outcome metrics measure results. AI can automate a lot of this tracking for you so that you can go find a lot of these things, but also can help you determine, if it's vanity or value. Leading indicators can predict risk before it's too late. Now, your non-negotiable experiment for this episode is I want you to build your outcome metrics dashboard this week using the prompt that's provided. If you need the prompts, you can go to pmnetworks.com. I have the exact prompts in there that you can just cut and paste. The other challenge is I want you to replace at least one vanity metric in your status report with a new value metric. Just do a little bit of switch. And here's what I ask you to notice. How do stakeholders react to that outcome focused reporting? And does that data help you spot risks earlier or make better decisions? That's it for this episode. Next time, we're going to talk about net operating value. It's a metric that helps me in portfolio decisions and start utilizing that to help us be able to do trade-off decisions and understand how to stack rank our portfolios in a little bit different way. This has been Rick Morris. You've been listening to AI Driven PM. We'll see you next time. I'm Rick Morris, and this has been AI Driven PM. Keep protecting your people, telling the truth, and making dreams come true.